Greetings, my dear friends. Armenia and Azerbaijan have been locked in conflict since September this year. This is not an old new conflict. It dates back from the time of the breakup of the Soviet Union. Actually, even before that. Located in the Caucasian region at the intersection of Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, Azerbaijan and Armenia are defined less by their own territory than by the territories of their powerful neighbors, Russia to the north, Iran to the south, to the west is Turkey, and east the Caspian Sea. All these three countries have ruled or controlled parts or whole of this area at some time or the other in the last few hundred years. Most recently, these two countries were controlled by the Soviet Union. All these neighbors retain substantial influence and continue to shape the geopolitics of this region. I am Commander Chakrapani or Chax with yet another episode of Chax Simplifies. This time from a region some distance away from us, from India, yet relevant and important to all of us. It has important ramifications as far as we are concerned. The Caucasus is a part of the Southern Energy Corridor, which takes the oil and gas from Baku in the Caspian Sea to Europe. It is an important component of European energy efficiency. It shifts the dependence of Europe from the Russian gas and therefore important to all of this area. There is a power play, a modification of the great game in progress in this area. One of those actors, that is Russia, remains constant from the old great game. The others have changed. On one hand, you have Turkey, which is trying to establish its leadership over the Islamic world. On the other hand, is China trying to meddle in the troubled waters. Therefore, let's understand the geopolitics at play, the power play in progress, and how it affects all of us. Armenia and Azerbaijan, like I said, are located in the Caucasian region. They have been controlled by some of its neighbors for much of its history, from Turkey to Iran, from the Soviet Union to Russia. Russia still remains the most influential external power in the region to date. Sustaining Russian support is what is Armenia's greatest geographical challenge. On the other hand, you have Azerbaijan, which is trying to find an ally in Turkey, the Muslim Brotherhood at play. The essential geopolitical rationale is security of the energy corridor as far as Europe is concerned, and its control where Turkey plays a role. So does Georgia, incidentally, but we are not discussing Georgia as of now. And it has two major trouble spots. Two islands, if you will, within the land space. One of Nagorno-Karabakh, which is about 95% Armenian, but in the middle of Azeri territory. And the other, Nakhchivan enclave, which is about 90% Azeri in the middle of the Armenian territory. This area embraced Christianity way back in the year 310 AD. Thereafter, it moved from one country's suzerainty to the other and was a part of the Iranian Empire till about the 19th century. In its troubled history, the Turks, the Persians all fought for control over this region. And in the 19th century, we found that this territory was basically khanates, small feudal kingdoms warring with each other, right? For example, the khanates of Baku, Karabakh, Yerevan, etc. Post in 1813 and 1828, Russo-Iranian peace treaties of Turkmenchai and Gulistan, Azerbaijan and Armenia became a part of the Russian Empire. Armenia reverted to its Orthodox Christian roots. Azeris continued with their Shia. In the mid 19th century, oil was found in Baku. This oil boom brought about a massive intellectual, cultural development to the Azeris. In 1915, the Armenians faced a genocide from the Ottoman Turks. In 1917, the Russian Empire collapsed and the Soviet Union was born. This was a backdrop where in 1918, Azerbaijan proclaimed itself the Azerbaijan Democratic Republic. It was the first such republic established in the entire Middle East. In 1919, the first democratically elected parliament came into being in Azerbaijan. Some of the political parties actually formed a coalition government. Armenia was recognized as a country after the First World War and the Paris peace talks. However, this independence was very short-lived. In April 1920, Soviet army invaded Azerbaijan and took over. It incorporated the Azerbaijan Soviet Socialist Republic. In 1922, the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic was formed, yet these trouble spots of Nagorno-Karabakh and Nakhchivan continued to become hotspots, and therefore you had the Soviet Union deciding to rule these as oblasts, centrally controlled territory from Moscow. Uneasy peace was maintained throughout the Soviet era. On the 20th of February 1988, the Parliament of Nagorno-Karabakh voted to unify this region with Armenia. Inter-ethnic fighting broke out between the ethnic Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh and the Azerbaijanis. This commenced the War of Nagorno-Karabakh, undeclared mountain conflict that finally saw an end in May 1994. In the meantime, on 20th of Jan 1990, Azerbaijan declared itself independent. On 23rd August 1990, Armenia declared itself independent. And finally, on 21st of December 1991, the USSR collapsed, the Soviet flag was brought down. Obviously, this signaled the commencement of full-scale fighting in 1992. In 1994, May, Russia brokered a ceasefire. At that time, the Republic of Astrakh, which is basically Armenia's Nagorno-Karabakh region, declared itself a republic. Nobody really recognized it. Not the Russians, not the Azeris. The Armenians were quite happy. However, the land between Nagorno-Karabakh and Armenia was de facto controlled by Armenia. It had a nice, broad land bridge to this region. Since then, sporadic clashes continued, with each side arming itself and blaming the other for these clashes. On the 1st of April 2016, fresh fighting broke out once again. This was very short-lived. It's called the 4-day war, and the ceasefire was announced on the 4th of April. On ground, however, the Azeris were handed a defeat, the Armenians became stronger, and the Azeris continued to smart under the defeat. This brings us to the current day. On the 27th of September, clashes broke out all along the Nagorno-Karabakh line of contact. Armenia and Azerbaijan introduced martial law and total mobilization. In response, on the 28th of September, Azerbaijan declared partial mobilization, introduced martial law and curfew. Engagements of heavy artillery, armor, and rocket attacks, dramatic use of drones, as well as emerging accounts of cluster ammunitions, ballistic missiles, attacks on the civilian population started coming out. The conflict expanded well beyond the borders of Nagorno-Karabakh or Azerbaijan, basically because of the munitions and the missiles that were deployed. So much so that Iran reported that shells and rockets have landed on its territory. Iran actually downed several UAVs, and Georgia also stated that 2 UAVs have crashed in its territory. On the 10th of October, a ceasefire was brokered by Russia. This held for a while. Fighting broke out again, and once again, ceasefire happened as of yesterday, which is the 18th of October, right? So you would ask me, two small countries fighting each other, what is the relevance of the world? Let's look at it like this. History is witness to the fact that large-scale confrontations or world wars are started by small sparks. We are in the middle of the version of the great game, as I mentioned earlier. Russia on one side, Turkey on the other. Russia wants to reduce the Turkish influence and Turkey wants to grow it. The belligerents themselves, Armenia and Azerbaijan, are not so big. But their backers, well, they are a different story entirely. Armenia has Russia and France on its side. Azerbaijan has Turkey throwing in its full might. And behind the scenes, China, maybe Pakistan, and almost definitely Syria. China, with no direct involvement, says we are not involved. However, it is hard to conceive that they are not, especially when their right hand and left hand, Pakistan and Turkey, are both involved. Shia Iran is quiet. So let's take a look at each of these backers. Let's start with Turkey. Turkey is openly in support of Azerbaijan. It is the instigator in many ways of this conflict. As recently as July-August 2020, a joint military exercise was carried out with the Azeri troops, and Turkey deployed 11,000 troops, fighter jets, and long-range artillery. It has of late pumped in Syrian and Kurd mercenaries in support of Azerbaijan. So you would ask, why is Turkey so enthusiastic about it? And why now? Well, on one hand, you have the COVID, which is keeping everybody quiet and everybody very, very docile, for want of a better word. On the other, Turkey wants to control or become the leader of the Islamic world, not just the Sunni world, where it wants to replace itself from these Saudi Arabians, also the Shia world, where Iran was the undisputed leader, but here it is interceding on behalf of Shia Azeris. There is a long-term effect of this conflict. Don't forget, Turkey is a part of NATO. NATO missiles, radars, other equipment is in Turkey, including nuclear missiles. What is the future of these missiles in case Turkey is thrown away from NATO for some reason. Then, will it claim sovereignty over these missiles and the sites that are there? It is involved in radicalization of the Azeri youth. So, if Azeri youth get radicalized, what happens to the other stans, the Kazakhstan, the Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, also with sizable Muslim populations? If they come under influence of Turkey, how far away would be Xinjiang and Kashmir? That is the relevance for us at India. Let's take NATO, the European Union, and the United States. Generally lying quiet, despite the fact that Turkey is involved in a maritime dispute where it has actually deployed ships against another NATO country, Greece. They have really speaking done nothing much. European Union has a major vested interest as far as the oil and gas pipelines from Baku to the European Union is concerned. This gives them one way of reducing dependence on Russian oil. Russia doesn't quite like it. On the other hand, Turkey gains significantly from the technological support from NATO and the European Union. Turkey also has another major card, the refugee card. It has a few thousands of refugees from Syria and Iraq and threatens to push them into Europe in case Europe doesn't behave. Europe, therefore, is remaining quite silent. So, what about Russia? Russia finds Turkey a threat. The southern Caucasian gas and oil pipelines are a threat to its dominance on the energy scene of Europe. It has a strategic relationship with both Armenia and Azerbaijan. Both are major consumers, major purchasers of its weapon systems. It is, however, more closely aligned with Armenia and has a strategic base in Armenia. Very close people-to-people contact with Armenia, and it views this conflict, as its leftover responsibility from the Soviet Union days and wants to preserve its preeminent status. Surprise, surprise is Israel. Israel gets over 40% of its oil from Azerbaijan. It signed a $5 billion weapons deal in 2016 with the Azeris, which included the LoRa ballistic missile of approximately 400 kilometers range, the Harop loitering munitions, Sky Striker kamikaze drones, etc. Don't forget, India also has a strategic relationship with Israel. So, what has changed with this conflict? In some form, there has been a revolution as far as militaries are concerned. This is the first time drones and UAVs have been used extensively. Loitering ammunitions have made their presence felt. The suicide UAV, a bomb and a drone combination, loiters around like a drone, and when it sights a tank, a piece of armor, strikes that armor like a bomb. Artillery, with stabilization in flight and the ability to be able to strike with pinpoint accuracy with terminal guidance, has made its presence. With ranges of 50 kilometers and above, artillery has become more relevant. On the other hand, the relevance of armor seems to be shrinking. So much so that if tanks can be destroyed from standoff ranges using UAVs and drones, even before they can be brought into action, NATO and some other countries, including the US, have already started looking at tanks. Should we have them at all? Therefore, what is going to be our response to this changes in what is happening in the military sphere? We will have to take a relook at all our preparedness. Don't forget, China and Pakistan are our neighbors. China is laying fiber optic cables in Ladakh. Pakistan has access to Chinese as well as Turkish drones. China is providing missiles. In fact, creating sites for missiles in our backyard, including in Gilgit-Baltistan. Therefore, we will have to change our emphasis on our training to make it more technologically intensive and bring in what is called as a systems thinking across the spectrum of military. So then, my dear friends, we continue living in very interesting times. As always, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed, and press the bell icon to be notified of all new videos that get uploaded. Feel free to like and share this video with your friends. And of course, I look forward to your comments, your suggestions. Until next time, Jai Hind.